Hey, it's Stan here. Welcome back to the Drum Cave. So, we're going to do something a little bit different this week. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. So, I'm pulling back the curtain and I'm going to bring you a little bit more into my world and where I came from. So, strap in and let's do it. So, last week I mentioned in passing that when I'm learning new material, I don't write anything down. So, for me personally, my process has always been simply to listen. And it's something that I've sort of built into my day. So, whether it's when I'm out for a run or if I'm biking to the studio, it's usually a part of something that I'm doing within my day. Now, this approach isn't exactly groundbreaking. Don't worry, I know I'm not the first person to listen to something to learn the material, but it's a little bit different to that for me. So today I want to take a deeper look into how I learn material, while at the same time taking you back to where it all began. Now, some of you may relate to this and some of you may not, but either way, I think it'll be an interesting story nonetheless. So, in full transparency, I was just 13 years old when I started experimenting with visualization and subconscious training when it comes to learning material for the drums. True story. And here's the thing, they are both actually methods that I still use to this day. Now I know, 13 years old, that's a big bold claim and it sounds a little bit bullshit, I totally get it, but I'm being 100% honest and I'm going to tell you the little anecdote that brings you into where this all began. I'm going to share with you my upbringing and what it was that actually triggered me starting to experiment with such powerful tools at such a young age. So let's rewind to the late 80s and early 90s, which would be considered the golden era of personal development coaches and mindset coaches. Whether it was Tony Robbins with personal power, so leaning heavily into finding your true potential, or even Kevin Trudeau's Mega Memory, do you remember that? Where he was focusing on cognitive performance through visualization. These resources at the time were everywhere. So if you wanted to become more, if you were trying to do better and be better, all the tools and resources were readily available. And well, my mum was very much one of those people. She wanted more and she wanted to become more. She was very deep in this world and she had all of the resources to show that. So I have very vivid memories in my single digits of following my mum around the house and in the car as well with the stereo blasting of someone explaining to her that she had more potential than what she was living to and life could be on her terms. These are actually really strong memories for me and quite fond memories of my mum. I even remember the big plastic molded cases that used to hold 10 cassette tapes and I would pull them out and play with them. I was fascinated by it all. This was very much my childhood. So what's interesting is that I completely forgot about all these memories from my childhood. It wasn't until many years later when I was on my own personal development journey when all of these memories came flooding back. I think they got buried by the challenges of my teenage years and early adulthood. But once they came back, they started to actually explain a lot about myself. So why I'm wired the way that I am and why this stuff resonates with me so much. It seems that I indirectly absorbed so much of this information through my mum's journey while she was trying to better herself. Now, unfortunately, she's probably not the best case study in terms of what this stuff can do for you. She struggled and it only seemed to get worse over the years. Things just keep getting harder and harder for her. Now, I'll dive into those reasons and her influence on me at some point, as I've connected a lot of dots in recent times that really helped me work through that history, and I think it's quite interesting. But that's all for another day. So for me, when I found personal development later in life, I felt an overwhelming sense of coming home almost. It was like a switch flipped. Reading the books, watching the videos, listening to all the audio resources, it already felt heavily ingrained in me, as though I'd always been familiar with it. And I think I had been just through those early experiences. It's funny because I thought this progression was a natural progression for me, but now I'm not so sure. Was I always heading this way, helping people unlock their potential on the kit, proxy of sharing my journey on and off the kit? Maybe it was on the cards all along. It's a chicken or the egg situation. They say that in golf, if you can find your swing in your first 10 years of life, you've got your swing for life. And maybe personal development works the same way. I was introduced to this so young, it must have planted a seed within me. So in short, my personal development journey started when I was 20 years old. I had just become a young father and I basically wanted to become the best version of myself for my son. So it started with exercise, so running and weightlifting, which eventually led to nutrition. And as I started to see the results of that and feel really, really good about myself, I naturally gravitated to what we call mindset, I suppose, which then in turn led to essentially psychology. So it is much more nuanced than that, the pathway, but that's it in a nutshell. That's why I always say if you prioritize your health, if you put that first, the body is the filter to the mind, the body will feed the mind, and then the mind can make great decisions and in turn change your life. But I talk about that all the time, and that's not why we're here today. The wild part is that I never actually connected it to my mum until just a couple of years ago. It was certain speakers that I'd come across would actually trigger like visceral memories and even almost like a taste of like how much it was ingrained in me. Now, how does this all relate to my drumming? Well, I picked up the sticks at 13 years old. I'd already played the guitar for 2 years, but once I touched the sticks and connected with it, I knew that I was a drummer through and through. So I tried to play the drums about 6 months earlier and I did not connect with it whatsoever. I just don't think I was ready for it. It wasn't until I found myself on my friend's brother's kit while they were out on the farm doing some work. I sat down, I played the money beat, and I felt a sense of euphoria come over me. From that moment, I was in. Everything felt right in the world. So my path to learning the drums was like everyone else's, attack the go-to rock songs first. So as I say, I'd been playing guitar for a couple of years, and I essentially just followed the same path that I took with that. So I thought I'd start with Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now, as a beginner, as a very, very new beginner, listening to that track from a drummer's perspective, it became apparent really, really quickly that the song was actually a bit harder than what I initially thought. Dave's drumming on that track is absolutely fantastic, and the songwriting is beautiful, as we all know. But I was determined, and I also knew that I needed all the resources that I could muster to achieve this. Now remember, this is pre-internet, so the resources were few and far between. So without even thinking about it, I pulled out my double tape deck, which was actually a prize that I won a few years earlier at a school blue light disco. So I grabbed a fresh cassette tape, put it in, and I started recording what would be a tape that I could listen back to while I was sleeping, explaining how to play the song. I remember I broke down the sections, and I even spoke really specifically about the parts that Dave was playing in each part of the song, so the verse, the chorus, the solo. So there I am at 13 years old, speaking in an ultra relaxed and very calm voice into my tape deck player. Just like all of those personal development coaches that I'd heard my mum listening to. I didn't even hesitate to think that this was the way to do it. I wanted to put myself in some sort of hypnotic trance to convince myself that I could play the song, and I remember thinking, of course this is the way to go about it. So looking back, I find it funny that A, I thought it was a feasible way to learn the track, and B, I actually went to the trouble of filling up both sides of this tape in doing so. It just made sense to do this as though it was part of the process. And man, I wish I still had that tape. It would be hilarious to listen to now. I've thought about that tape many times over the years. Now the question is, did it work? It's a hard metric to gauge. I don't have the data on that. But in short, going based on how I felt about it, yes, absolutely. I learned the song extremely quick, and honestly in the time preceding, developed pretty fast on the kit in general. So I'm self-taught and I've always been a fast learner on the kit. And I actually do credit a lot of that to my early adoption of techniques like this. If not specifically in drum techniques, certainly in the mindset that you need to be able to get better at something. So how do I use these techniques now? Well, I've made tapes and audio since then too. Not so much about parts or techniques on the kit or songs, but more so tapes regarding unlocking my potential on and off the kit. Even just last year, I created a tape that was built around some specific things in my life that I wanted to target about my personality, and I would listen to it while I was sleeping to build it into my subconscious. So the thought process behind these audios is very simple. By repeatedly hearing these specific messages, I feel like I'm unlocking a door to a new skill set or mindset towards it before I've even grabbed the handle. And I know this stuff works, without a doubt. Subconscious training is an absolute real thing. I truly believe that I can physically learn anything that I want to learn on the kit, that if someone else has done it, so can I. It's just a matter of time. But the only catch is, and I've noticed this, I have to want to learn it. That part is key. If I'm not interested, it is not going to happen. So tying this back to the start, another powerful process for me is visualization. So when learning new material, I go for long runs and listen to the tracks, but not just as a passive listener. I actually visualize myself sitting on the drums from the POV, so from the player's position, actually playing the parts. I don't just hear the drummer or hear the parts, I am the drummer playing the parts. So these tools, visualization and subconscious training, have been absolute game changers for me. I know that they're a big part of why I'm able to approach my craft with the confidence and intention that I do. It's an intrinsic internal belief that I literally have the ability to do anything I want on and with this instrument, and techniques I still rely on to this day. Now look, I'm not saying that everyone needs to go out and start recording themselves talking to themselves. I already know that's not everyone's cup of tea, don't worry. Different strokes for different folks. But if you're not already experimenting with deep visualization, so putting yourself in the player's position, you're 100% missing out. So whether it's learning new material or whether it's just spending time thinking heavily about you becoming more on or off this instrument, it doesn't matter. Just spending time sitting in that everything is on your terms, it's up to you. Visualizing will definitely help. So as I say, it's been a massive game changer for me and I can't recommend it enough. So next time, if you don't do this already, when you're learning material, don't just listen to it passively. Close your eyes or even use your internal eye and put yourself in the player's position and actually play the parts. Don't just listen to them. Picture every single detail from that POV view, the drums, the cymbals, the positions, even feel the sticks in your hands. This approach not only speeds up the learning process, but it also ingrains in you that intrinsic belief that you can do it. Because technically in your mind, you already have. Anyway, that's some food for thought, and like I say, I just wanted to bring you a little bit more into my world and show you my process with how I approach these things. We'll leave it there this week. Don't forget, if you want to learn more about what I'm up to, you can head over to masterminddrummer.com. I just dropped my new course, Dynamics and Mechanics. This is by far the biggest course I've ever done. This thing is a behemoth. So if you're interested in taking your dynamics and the way you approach your playing from a mechanical perspective to the next level, check out masterminddrummer.com. And if you want to sign up for my free newsletter, you can do so there too. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next one. Peace.